Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's the fifth day of February 2022. Steve, how you doing?
I'm good. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a busy week, as always, in sports.
I woke up late, so I didn't shave. I apologize for that.
I thought you woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, and that's the growth. 6 hours later now.
I know it doesn't make me look any younger, but it is what it is. Cuts down on the heating bills.
Oh, especially with prices soaring. That's a bold move there.
It sure is. But
Yeah, we
anyway,
got
welcome back, everybody. It's great to have you with us. This is our live broadcast on Facebook. Our producer Rob in the background pulling the strings.
Hey, Rob. Thank you.
Little chilly on the northeast part of the world. It was murky day yesterday, rainy, icy, but they went through it down in Texas and Dallas, and that's the winter for us, right?
We just got to get through February. This is the worst month in the Northeast, so it's
Right.
cold, and this is where the snow hits. So St.
Countdown
Patrick's
to
Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patty's Day is 6 weeks out.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
there
so
you go, brother.
let's jump right into it. And Steve, you have the monologue this week, which is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And like I said, whatever it is, wherever it's got to go, and when it needs to get there, that's the trucking company you want to hire.
You bet.
I'll turn it
Well,
over to you, Steve, for the monologue.
well, last week's show, we had mentioned Tom Brady, and I did have an inkling that Mr. Brady was going to pack it in after a week or so, and I spent the last week kind of thinking about Tom Brady, and Jim and I are college fanatics. We just love college football, Michigan, especially in the history of Michigan. So I was thinking of Tom Brady while at Michigan, right? So I remember number 10 vividly, 98, 99, that type of thing. And I also remember this is kind of where the legend, before anybody knew of Tom Brady, Drew Henson was at Michigan, and this is where the competition and the fierce competitive nature of Tom Brady really started. Drew Henson, for those that don't know, was a highly touted quarterback and a New York Yankees high draft pick. Played third base. This guy was, the second coming of one of the greatest athletes we're supposed to see. And Drew Henson at Michigan could not beat out Tom Brady. Okay, we all know Tom Brady then 199th overall pick, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward to Mo Lewis of the New York Jets, absolutely crushing Drew Bledsoe on the sideline, and that broke the myth of, well, you don't lose your job to injury. Tom Brady steps in, and the rest is history. Right? They go on to win that first Super Bowl. And I've been thinking about Tom Brady, and I mean, is he the greatest quarterback that's ever played? Yeah,
The
yeah,
numbers
yeah. Numbers would say. But when I think of Tom Brady, I don't think of Michael Jordan as the best physical basketball player. I don't think of Tom Brady as Tiger Woods as this phenomenon
Wayne
golfer.
Gretzky.
I was just going to lead to Wayne Gretzky and guys like that. So what I equate Tom Brady to is our absolute idol, Mark Messier. Right. So when we say Mark Messier is the greatest team leader in sports, I think Mark Messier is joined by Tom Brady. Yeah, so Tom Brady wills people to win. His competitive nature, his preparation. He's not the most gifted athlete, right? So that's why my comparison goes to Messier. Um, seven Super Bowls unmatched. You got Yogi Berra with 10. You got Otto Graham with like 9. That type of
Bill
thing.
Russell.
Bill Russell, of course. So Tom Brady, 22 years have gone by, and I don't really think it was in a blink of an eye. You know, it's been a long career. We've seen so many just great moments, and we've seen some very tough moments. The David Tyree catch, things like that. So I think he's lost 3 Super Bowls,
The
but Tom
tough
Brady,
game, the
right? So
snowball.
so back to real quick, and then I'm going to end it with To me, Dan Marino is the purest thrower of the football I've ever seen. And if you can, and I know we can't do eras and compare, but if you put Dan Marino at 21 years old in today's NFL, where he sat back in the shotgun and you weren't allowed to touch him, and the cornerbacks can't touch your wide receivers, think about the numbers that Dan Marino would put up. So Tom Brady, obviously by numbers, championships, is the greatest quarterback to play. And I just wanted to touch on him and acknowledge we just watched greatness for 22 years.
I know. And I was thinking the same thing, Steve. Great monologue, because that's, there's a lot going on in the NFL. And this is one of those topics which kind of ended up taking a back seat almost a little bit. And you're right. There's no disputing the fact. And when you mentioned Michigan, we remember, I think Tom Brady was a 2-year starter at Michigan.
Yeah, went to the Rose Bowl.
And you're right. Neither you nor I, who watched this guy throw every college pass and every pass he ever threw in the NFL, could have possibly foresaw him becoming what we're talking about right now, the greatest of all time. And his numbers don't, they don't indicate otherwise. And you're right. Great comparison to Messier. This guy wins wherever he goes. And listen, the next time we're going to see him, outside of Entertainment Tonight, is the Hall of Fame. And when you and I talked about the Hall of Fame last week, it was the Baseball Hall of Fame. But if there's any question about who's the first ballot Hall of Famer, Tom Brady.
No question at all. And then the other thing about his announcement, Adam Schefter, Shefty, ESPN.
We like him.
We love him. I mean, this guy does his due diligence, and he is the go-to guy with inside information.
No doubt.
Jeff Saturday, I think, was the other one that they kind of tag teamed and broke this news. The other thing, it was broke on Sunday, the day of the championship games. And if you know Tom Brady and you like to think, he's not going to steal the thunder of the championship game. So this got leaked out, and Adam Schefter, for 72 hours, his credibility was being questioned. And
he was sweating bullets.
I don't think he was, because you know what? He knew his sources were impeccable. He stuck to his guns, and the story took a few days longer than anticipated. But I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yep. So listen, Steve. Obviously, there's a lot going on. Let's touch base first on last week's game, because we got the Super Bowl all ready to go now, right? It's been a long year, and this is 17-game season for the first time, and now the playoffs, which have been unbelievable, like great football games.
Yep.
So let's first touch base on last week's game. It was Cincinnati and Kansas City, and it started looking exactly like we thought it could, with Kansas City taking it to them, running up with a 21-3 lead at halftime. Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, and what happened? 2 words: Joe Burrow.
And what happened is they didn't score at the end of the first half and get at least a field goal to make it 24. And that was a big momentum.
That came back to haunt them.
It certainly did. I mean, a tale of 2 halves, obviously. The Chiefs just looked like a freight train. I thought they were going to put up 48 points. It would have been a 42 to 17 game, something along those lines. What it looked like. Yep. But you got to credit Burrow and the Bengals for adjusting in the second half. The Chiefs had their chances, but the Bengals, got punched in the nose, and they came back and deserved to win. Sure. And real quick about Joe Burrow, I'm not going to anoint him to be the next Tom Brady, but I'm telling you, Joe Burrow, to me, has all the intangibles that I want in a quarterback. And this guy, kind of like Brady so far, is a winner, man. Like what he did.
And I remember specifically you telling me I wasn't 100% sold on him at LSU, and you said this guy's the real deal. And kudos to you. You are absolutely right. And when you look about it, we'll talk about the Super Bowl coming up in a minute, but you want to talk about a guy that wins, right? We just talked about Tom Brady. This guy, Joe Burrow, is 7-0 in national championship games, his playoff career. I mean, he's a winner, and you were right. And he showed a lot of guts, and just, on the road in Kansas City, it's a tough place to win. And he really came up big.
He's cool, calm, and collected. And you can see that when he drops back to pass or whether he's in the shotgun, he's surveying the field. Nobody's open. The scrambles that he did on Sunday were, perfect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has that field vision. He has that leadership quality, and Cincinnati's lucky to have this guy. And I actually laughed during the week because Mike Brown is considered the cheapest owner in all of sports, basically. And Mike Brown is like 83, 84 years old. So, let's be real. Mike Brown.
Which would make Paul Brown 120.
Yeah, but what I'm laughing at is Mike Brown having to write a check for $45 million a year to Joe Burrow, or 50, because that's what's going to happen in a couple of years.
That's right.
Yeah.
But so that was a great game, and let's move on to the other game, which was San Francisco.
One other statement I want to make about Kansas City. I did say like 3 out of 6. I thought Kansas City would win for this window. I'm rescinding that. I think they're only going to get one now. I think the window is closed pretty much. I don't foresee Kansas City finishing and winning another Super Bowl, because the pieces, the Kelseys and so on and so forth, this window is closing rapidly. And based on what I see the last 2 years, I'm very disappointed in Kansas City, especially being
I know. You really kind of thought they might win 3 out of the next 4 Super Bowls.
Oh, I'm rescinding that. I'm rescinding it based on what.
But listen, Patrick Mahomes, number 15, he's only 24 years old.
He's special, don't get me wrong, but it's the supporting cast that you have to have.
I got you.
That's why I think Kansas City's window is rapidly closing.
So let's move on to game 2 of last week, which is San Francisco and the Rams. And listen, there's so much talent on that field, right? I told you, I think this guy, Aaron Donald, is such a presence, and Stafford, we're rooting for him. And he comes up against Garoppolo. And like I said, the era is over in San Francisco. But he, what did he do at the end of the game is kind of what we talked about. He always has that Vinny Testaverde innate ability to throw the big one, or a Phillip Rivers at the end of the game. And that's exactly what happened. But I think the best team won. Got to give the 49ers and Shanahan credit. They hung in there for as long as they could, but the Rams move on.
Oh, yes. And speaking of Garoppolo's interception at the end of the game, who was in his face? It was Aaron Donald, right? Aaron Donald is, again, we talked about him last week. I said, you got to knock off the choking and all this stuff. But when this guy's motor's going, this guy's the best defensive lineman in the game.
Yeah.
I talked about before the game, scouting, with game plans, and San Francisco's got to cut down, can't let Cooper Kupp touch the ball. And what does Cooper Kupp do? 2 touchdowns. This guy's a special player. Odell Beckham, he's not our favorite. 9 catches, I think $113. He contributed. Matt Stafford gets this big win. McVay, this is the biggest game of his life. And there's a good backstory with the Super Bowl coming up that Zach Taylor, was on McVay's staff like 3 years ago, quarterbacks coach, that type of thing. They're very tight. So I think that's a pretty cool backstory. Zach Taylor, Sean McVay in the Super Bowl, and we shall see what happens. But, the Rams deserve to move on. It was a close game. And the Rams are home, back to back.
I know. They're playing at SoFi Stadium. You're right.
Yeah.
So listen, we're gonna have a little bit more in-depth Super Bowl talk on our next show next week. But I think it's a great matchup, and I got to be honest, right now, I mean, I was absolutely leaning toward the Rams, and I'd love to see Stafford and Aaron Donald get rings.
Yeah.
And I think that would be great because I like Sean McVay as well. Joe Burrow is going to get a ring at some point in his career, whether it's this week or, next week or in a couple of years. But I'm not sure where I'm going. The way Burrow is playing, I'm not ruling out a pick on Sports with Mono and Mono next week. If I come out and say the Bengals, don't be surprised, although I think the Rams are a better football team across the board.
Yeah, I got another week to go through.
Do our homework.
And we'll make our picks next week.
Yep. So that was great, right? So a lot of other coaching things, but let's jump right into kind of the topic of the weekend, which was the Brian Flores situation in the NFL. And, you know, it's such a powerful topic, to even be talking about. And, you and I, sports with mono and mono and the people that we associate with don't have any concept of, racism and how that could possibly come into the whole scheme of things in football. And listen, if you look at the numbers and the number of coaches right now, Mike Tomlin, the only black coach in the NFL, yeah, it doesn't look good. And I'm all for it. I mean, I would play for Brian Flores. I would play for anybody. And it's really gotten ugly, with the situation with the Giants, and allegedly they had hired Brian Daboll. And, was it because Brian Flores was black? Absolutely not. I mean, you can't possibly say that the Maras and 31 other owners in this league are racist, right? There have been black coaches, but the numbers they don't deny. And listen, I like Brian Flores, and I'm still thinking Brian Flores may get one of the couple remaining jobs. But Steve, overall, I don't think there's any question that the NFL has so much to do. The Rooney Rule and its intent was great. It's just not working out. But I just hate to think that an owner of an NFL team would say, I don't want a black coach because that's not good for us. Whether it's 2022 and this is still going on. But I support what Brian Flores is doing. And, what do you think about this whole situation?
Right. I mean, when the news broke, yeah, it was. You had to decipher this. Like, what the hell's going on? Belichick.
I thought he was going to get the Giants job, to be quite honest.
Brian Flores and his attorneys are peeling back the onion of the worst kept secret of what's going on in the NFL. Now, they're going up against the NFL. And the NFL is no joke when it comes to litigation and defending themselves. Right, wrong, and different.
Okay? We got it. We trashed the NFL for their policies.
I give Brian Flores credit for standing up for this and saying this is bullshit. I mean, enough is enough here. Right?
I do too.
As far as the sham interview goes, the New York Giants had Jerry Reese as the freaking general manager for 12 years, Super Bowl, champion, right? I get the NFL is 70% black, so I don't have any explanation as to why Mike Tomlin is the only head coach right now, especially with 7 openings, okay? And I believe Kevin O'Connell is probably going to get the gig in the Vikings. So on and so forth. I wouldn't be surprised if Flores lands in Houston, okay?
Or New Orleans.
I think Dennis Allen will probably get that. But again, Dennis Allen is a retread. Dennis Allen was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. But that's part of what it is. It's these retreads of the old boys network, right? So you're telling me Jim Caldwell at 70 years old, Jim Caldwell is a great football coach, right? Black, right? Byron Leftwich, I think, for the Jacksonville job, I think he tried to exert too much influence by where he said, I want Trent Baalke, the general manager, out before I decide to take this gig. Not happening, okay? They hired Doug Peterson. I think Doug Peterson is a good hire for Jacksonville. Eric Bieniemy, we talked about last week off the air. I don't have an answer for this. My only guess is Eric Bieniemy must have skeletons in his closet that's scaring off getting hired as a head coach. That's a perfect
example. I don't understand why he's not even getting interviews. I don't get that at all.
I don't either. He's been the offensive coordinator, gone 4 straight championship games, won a Super Bowl. I don't get it.
But right? do we have Donald Sterling type owners in this league that just flat out refuse? Listen, we go back in time. There's been, the Art Shells, the Dennis Greens, the Leslie Frazier's. It's not that no black coaches have gotten the opportunity.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, black coaches don't have,
Todd Bowles.
They have, you go on and on. but it's not. And black coaches get fired just like white coaches get fired, right? In a short term. Matt Nagy, Fangio, these guys. But the numbers just say, you know what, Brian, good for you for bringing this to the forefront again.
Right.
And it could get swept under the rug.
No, I commend him again for exposing this, or making it public now, as opposed to like they do the interviews, white guys get hired, and then it's back to normal, and then they do the interviews again next year, right?
Yep,
So I give
that's
them
how it
credit.
is.
Where I do have maybe some issue, and I need to see more proof, is accusing Stephen Ross. Now let's be real here. We know when teams are tanking. Okay, the NBA, they get the number one pick. The NFL, like, they all do it. It's the unwritten rule. But I was expecting Brian Flores, like the Bill Belichick text, where actually we just saw a screenshot, I think, yesterday. Whatever. But if you're going to accuse Stephen Ross of paying you $100,000 to lose, you better have that something in right. Let's see it. Right? I can't take that at face value. I just can't.
And it can't just be.
And if it's proven Stephen Ross did this, well, Stephen Ross, you got to go. You got to go.
Immediately, Ross goes.
Right.
And you're right. It just seems inconceivable. But you're right. If it was just a conversation, then there will never be any proof. And it's a he said, she said.
Right.
And, that's part of the Brian Flores case, and that came to light. But that's really nothing to do with the coaching scenario that we've been talking about, right? I mean, that's a whole new thing. That's compromising the integrity of the game.
Yes.
I mean, which is right. That's what football is supposed to be about? Sports in general. I mean, everybody gives it their best effort, and the winner takes the trophy.
Right. And then I just want to make another point. These guys are billionaires. These guys are worth $10 billion. Okay, it's called capitalism. It's called free market, right? Who's going to tell this guy, the owner of an NFL team, who he can and can't hire? It doesn't work that way. Okay, so
that's exactly the crossroads.
So when they go to court, good luck, trying to get over that hurdle. I mean, that's inherent in business. I'm a business owner. You're not going to tell me who I can and can't hire. I wouldn't stand for it. If
but
a black
Steve,
person
I gotta say,
is the best candidate, then obviously that person should get the job. It doesn't happen all the time. No. Okay. But it's just the world. It's the world we live in. It's not perfect.
And
I commend Flores for peeling the onion back, and we'll see how it plays out.
And there will be more black coaches in this league because there's so many qualified guys to be. Right now, the numbers are down, but they will go up, right? The NBA has made incredible strides, right? A lot of black coaches in the NBA, and NFL should be no different. But it's hard for me overall to conceptualize that there are racist owners running National Football League teams. And nobody ever accused the marriage.
Listen, there's 32 of them. I'm going to take a flyer and say there's a handful that are racist.
Of course, but that's the law of large numbers. Is always going to be, right?
Absolutely.
But good for what I hope it makes change and let Roger Goodell have to work for his $40 million a year.
No, $63 million.
Oh, 63. He had a good year last year. Yeah. Anyway, so good luck to that. That was a big topic, and a couple other things, Steve, in the NFL, right? Harbaugh interviews for the Viking job, doesn't get it. Now goes back to Michigan, says, "I was just checking it out."
Right. 1-6 against Ohio State. I'm done with Jim Harbaugh. Just stay at Michigan, okay? That's it.
What do you think of the Washington Commander new team nickname? Uniforms are cool.
I mean, it's not terrible. It's not. But to me, they're the Washington Redskins. I've said this over and over again, and I'm just referring them to the Washington Redskins because that's what I'm doing. It's not a terrible name, okay? However, Dan Snyder is back in the news.
Oh,
Dan Snyder is the worst owner in all of professional sports.
no question about it.
I mean,
What an absolute mess.
he's a
that
train
Dan
wreck.
Snyder.
He is the worst. And guess what? You can't get rid of him. Not yet. Right? And if they do, then all he does is cede control to his wife, and he's still running the team.
It's like a manager getting thrown out of a game. You think he's not managing the team from the locker room?
And again, I have like dear friends that are Redskin Commander fans.
I do too.
I mean, to say they're embarrassed is beyond.
Yeah.
Right. So when I break Jerry Jones's chops, I'm talking about success on the field, and we feel that, and blah blah blah. But Jerry Jones is not, not a Dan Snyder from a character perspective. People, Jerry Jones is well respected as a human being. Dan Snyder is the biggest scumbag. Oh my God.
It is. I have a fan, Jeff Bolliger, a friend of mine, Washington fan, and even he goes, I don't even know what to say. It's just what an absolute disaster to a one.
Do you think Ron Rivera, when he walks into Dan Snyder's office, doesn't want to throw this guy through a wall 7,000 times? And Ron Rivera, we know, linebacker, Chicago Bears. Ron Rivera would break every single bone in his body if he could. And it would take him less than 30 seconds to do it.
You're right. But so much going on in the NFL. And Steve, like I said, just from today, Patrick Graham, Giants defensive coordinator, taking the job for the Raiders. That was kind of a surprise.
It was a huge surprise. I saw that this morning. I thought it was a done deal. He was staying with the Giants. They had him for one more year. And I thought Dable selected him. So I was really kind of surprised by that.
I thought Patrick Graham did a great job for the Giants.
But as it turns out, Patrick Graham was in New England for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. So it makes sense that Josh McDaniels and Graham obviously have a friendly relationship. And, McDaniels is a Graham guy. So he wanted him. And, good luck. That's a good move for Patrick Graham.
Yeah. So
and again, if he does well with the Raiders, you throw that guy's name in the hat as a head guy in a year or two, right?
No question about it.
That's
absolutely.
There's plenty of candidates out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So whether they
and in the NFL, there's always plenty of jobs.
Right. Right.
So anyway, let's move on. I want to bring something up because we don't talk about it, but the whole tennis, and we talked about it last week, the Australian Open, and Rafael Nadal wins his 21st major. And, what's not to like about this guy, right?
Yeah, I'm a Rafi guy. We talked about it last week. We were thrilled for him. It was a sensational match. And, the Joker, his test, I think it's been confirmed that it was, on the up and up by the government. I think. I mean, I don't know. Point is, Joker got, told to leave the country, right or wrong. I don't know.
And there was always the possibility of this, with Medvedev. I know you liked him. We don't necessarily like his on-court demeanor, but we know he's the next, one of the top 3 tennis players on the men's side. And, but I was so happy for Nadal. I just like this guy. And listen, Joker will end up breaking that because he's a couple of years younger, so he's got a little bit more time.
No question.
But Rafael Nadal put everything he had into winning the French Open because he's had a kind of a rough time. He was 1-4 in Australian Open finals and stuff.
Sure.
Just gotta give him 2 thumbs up as one of the all-time greats.
No question. I would say Joker, when it's all said and done, 25-26.
Wow, that's a high number. I mean,
what, another 4?
He is
another 5? No, I'll go 25. Another 5, I can see that over a course of 4 years or so.
Okay.
Especially because Nadal is 37 now, right? And we know Roger's knee and Roger's 40. And,
Yep.
I don't think Medvedev and anybody, Kyrgios or whatever the hell his name is, he can be judged.
Mike Garvey likes Kyrgios, and I said this guy is.
I don't think I'm not saying he's not formidable and
He
he's
won the
good,
doubles title.
but for the next 3 or 4 years, you give me
Yep.
Joker, at a relatively, what is he, 33, something like that,
Yeah.
34 maybe,
34
right,
probably. Yeah.
32.
Yep.
I'll put my money on Joker getting 5 more majors.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that because listen, the French is next, and then Wimbledon and the US Open. And listen, we'll talk tennis, but you got it. When we talk about icons in their particular sport, Rafael Nadal is right up there, right? Right
Yeah.
up there.
Yep.
So let's move on. Our next segment sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And you need a Toyota, you need service, that's the place to go. And they're loyal supporters of our show. So, Steve, let's kind of touch base a little bit on the NBA. And, I've gotten some feedback that we don't spend a lot of time on the NBA. But now that football's winding down in the second half of the season, what's your impression of my preseason pick of the Lakers and Nets, both kind of on the skids right now?
Yeah, the Nets are in the news. They're riding, I think, a 7-game losing streak, something like that. They got smoked again on the road. James Harden, is there's talk that he's unhappy, and James wants out. I did hear some trade rumor. I don't think Ben Simmons,
right?
Ben Simmons and Maxey from Philadelphia to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden.
Will not happen.
I can't say it will or won't, but that's how bad it is. You got Kyrie Irving, we've talked about, can't play home games right now.
Part-time player, yeah.
Right, KD is banged up with the knee. But if the mandate is lifted, which may be in New York City in maybe a couple months, it could be. And if it is, that means Irving plays at home. Let's just say that big three is healthy, hypothetically.
Yep.
Then the Brooklyn Nets are formidable. Okay, then they can take on Milwaukee. Without one of the three, I count them out. In the West, the Phoenix Suns won 10 in a row. They lost 2 nights ago.
They've had two 10-game winning streaks.
Right, they're 41-10.
Yeah. So you got out west. It's Golden State.
Golden State is back, no doubt,
and that's it. And then you move east, and listen, Giannis is starting to ramp it up a little bit. Even the Sixers are kind of playing good ball. You're the guy you don't like, Embiid, but playing pretty good. Surprise team
I don't
in the
dispute
East.
the guy's talent. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not an Embiid.
But they just don't have.
I don't root for him, but I appreciate his talent.
Absolutely.
The Celtics are starting to play a little bit better, but they just don't have the pieces. They got Tatum and Brown, and that's pretty much it. So I'm ruling them out.
But how about the surprise team in the East? You got to say the Chicago Bulls.
Sure, Bulls have been playing great.
This is one of the young, up and coming, the John Moran kind of guy. This Zach LaVine, superstar.
So here's my thoughts. So the New York Knicks, right? So the New York Knicks are a disaster right now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, and rightfully so, Julius Randle's got to go. Okay. And there's talk to him going to Sacramento, maybe for DeAndre Fox. Scott Perry was the general manager of Sacramento at the time when they drafted Fox. Randle's got to go.
No ifs, and
buts about it.
Okay, but let me touch base on the Knicks, because a year ago, you and I talked, and Randle had this, breakout season, right? So they pay him this huge contract. They get Derrick Rose, they get Kemba Walker, Fournier, and with this new rising star, Randle. Everybody was all on board. The Knicks are on the cusp of success. And this year they're saying, wait a minute, now this is Thibodeau's fault because Walker didn't work out. Rose doesn't play. Randle's not having a good year. Fournier has one good game every 10 games. And now they're going, oh, look what they put on the – what did you expect? this is exactly what you were getting, and we knew
Yeah.
Kemba Walker wasn't going to make this franchise.
Head scratcher, that signing. Head scratch. Kemba Walker, great basketball player. Damaged goods. I'm not giving him. I don't care that he's from the Bronx. He's a New York guy. You're done. Evan Ford.
And now you're hearing that even Thibodeau had no interest in Cam Reddish, and
No.
so it's Leon Rose calling the shots. Right?
Evan Fournier paying this guy $78 million for what?
And he's had
Did
like
he hit a
3 good
three-pointer?
games.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But the Knicks are a disaster. Adam made this statement, and I'd just like to finish on this. If the New York Knicks want to get back to relevance, I don't care how long I think Ja Morant is under contract for maybe 4 more years. Restricted free, whatever. I don't care what the scenario is. If Jerry West was the, 60 years old and the executive upstairs for the New York Knicks, or Pat Riley, right? They would get this guy. So they got to get him in max 4 years. That is the only player I think that can turn the Knicks around, because this guy is special. He's young. He'd be 25, 26. This guy is lights out.
You're talking about Morant?
Ja Morant.
Yeah, but he's not. He's untouchable, right? He hasn't been in the league long enough to walk.
That's my point. He's under contract. You think he's going to play in Memphis for the rest of his life? No.
Right, but Knicks, he's not going anywhere near the Knicks anytime
everything.
soon.
I don't care if they give up 4 first round. I don't care. You got to get this guy. He's a special player and build around him. To me, he's the answer. Listen, we've waited since 1973. I can wait 4 more years.
Yeah, my last point with the Knicks, and if you want to try to make a run, I don't see, maybe Tom Thibodeau doesn't like Obi Toppin, but let this guy play.
He likes it.
Then he's got to play more, because you brought up R.J. Barrett. He's played better than I thought he was going to play.
Right.
Do I think he's going to be a Ja Morant type of player? No,
Ja Morant's special is my point.
I got you.
But anyway, listen, anybody on the Knicks roster, you want them? God. As long as I'm getting some the value in return and assets, you're gone. There's no untouchable on the Knicks roster right now.
Yeah,
nobody.
So let's move, Steve. Let's talk about. We mentioned it last week that now that football's winding down, what starts to ramp up, and that's NCAA hoops, right? And you look at Auburn, number 1 team in the country. You got Gonzaga, UCLA, number 3, lost to Arizona the other night. So now this is starting to get interesting, right? We're winding down with Coach K, final season, coaching Duke.
Yeah.
Saw some great highlights on ESPN today from his first season, right, up until now. And what rivalry in sports was as good as that? I mean, it was awesome.
It's quite good. Good. But the state of college basketball, when Auburn is number 1 and the program is run by Bruce Pearl, who to me is a Barnum and Bailey circus.
Just got an 8-year contract extension.
$50 million. Do not be surprised, folks. Do not be surprised if Auburn is good enough to win a national championship in the next couple of years. But the dirty laundry to get to this national championship,
that'll come out for you.
That will come out. And Bruce Pearl, to me, and I spoke about it a couple with Kelvin Sampson. He's another one. He's at Houston. Bruce Pearl. These guys are filthy, dirty recruiters. They are. I don't have any respect for them. And Auburn,
they are the number 1 team in the country. And you know what? I like Gonzaga a lot. I think this kid Holmgren, who's that rookie, he looks like he's 9 years old, but he's 10 feet tall.
Oh yeah,
he's a player, because Gonzaga's there. They're Final Four, early on kind of thing. But
yeah, there's no clear cut, UNLV Larry Johnson team or Leitner and Bobby Hurley type of team. Whatever. The perfect 76 Hoosiers. Right now, anybody can win it. So it's going to be interesting when the tournament rolls around.
But I'm getting kind of psyched. I'm ramping up, right? The new year and NCAA hoops starts to get really, really cool.
Rick Pitino, I think, has the Iona Gales at 19-3. So you can be assured that they'll make an appearance most
Well,
likely.
they did. They took it to my Niagara Purple Eagles because they're in the MAC conference. So, we have to face Coach Pitino twice a year and maybe in the MAC tournament. So.
Well,
Anyway,
it'll be a quick exit for the Purple Eagles.
I know it's not our year. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Hey, but Greg Paulus, former Duke player, is going to turn this program around.
Yeah,
you heard it here first.
We talked about that. Which is his first year or second year?
Second, yeah. So anyway, Steve, let's move on to our random points of interest. Just a couple of things that caught my eye. We'll go down the list. Herbie Husker, mascot of Nebraska, this was his logo.
It was.
Apparently, it's no longer socially acceptable to say A-OK, so they're changing the logo.
Yeah.
It's 2022. Are we surprised?
No. Drives me crazy.
Anyway, another one came up. Another one came up. I saw was a Jackie Robinson plaque with bullet holes in it. I mean, is this society insane or what?
Yes.
But the reason I bring it up because they're going to put that very sign at the Negro Baseball Museum that they're creating. I think it's in St. Louis, Kansas City, something. I mean, unbelievable. But listen, we've talked about Jackie Robinson, the impact. I saw it and I said, oh my God, people took shots at a Jackie Robinson plaque in 2022.
Right, but my guess is the ignorant idiots that took those shots have no idea of who and what Jackie Robinson was.
Exactly.
That's my guess.
Yeah. But how about this? Shohei Ohtani, right? I wanted to bring this up because I saw it and I was thinking about, the new generation we just talked about in the NBA, the young guns, right? Major League Baseball, once the lockout's over, and that'll be over soon enough, right? You got Ohtani, he's now the face of what I don't play it, Major League Baseball 21 or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And then I started to think, who are those top five guys, the up and comings, right? Tatis, Guerrero. And then I started to say, is Aaron Judge in that top five of the next wave of superstars? Is Mike Trout going to come back and have another year?
I'd give Mike. I would say Aaron Judge. I would sneak him in 9 or 10 with the young. With that, the face of Major League Baseball. Aaron Judge is a good guy. You want a character guy, and he's got Aaron Judge is a big contract for the Yankees.
But when you think about it, you got Soto, right? Who else? I'm missing somebody that I thought would be the next group, but I saw that. I thought it was interesting, and I wanted your opinion on whether or not Judge is that Tatis type of player for the next 5 years. I don't see him staying healthy enough.
So you just hit it on the head. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah. So. But listen, it's the new year, so what's getting underway real soon is college baseball. Yeah. And I'm going to give a couple of shout outs here. One is to my nephew, your nephew, Brendan Monahan, who starts their 2022 campaign down in Houston and will ultimately...
You tell those bastards down in Houston!
Ain't no bastard coming in. But that season's starting. I wish Brendan good luck, and they're actually going and playing the Hawaii college baseball team. A little nice road trip.
Hell yeah! So Brendan is the pitching coach and recruiting coordinator for Rutgers baseball.
Yes, he is. So we wish him great good luck. And another shout out to one of our old time friends, Steve Caravello. We grew up with, in the same neighborhood. Haven't seen him physically in 45 years. But his son Nick is a baseball player, and I wanted to give a shout out to him. And he plays at Newman University, which is in Kansas.
All right, that's good.
Division II team, and he's a catcher. And Steve and I just reconnected lately, and wanted to give a shout out.
Is that not a baseball name, folks? Nick Caravello? Come on.
And his father, Stevie, was a great baseball player at Seton Hall University.
You better believe it. Right? Steve was a great athlete growing up. We're dear friends with the Caravellos.
Yep.
And a shout out to Robbie Caravello, Rob, longtime golf, channel executive, and love you guys, and appreciate you watching the show, and hope
well, we love college baseball just like we're sports guys. That's what we do, right?
Yep. Just staying on baseball real quick with random points. Buck Showalter was down at spring training this past week with Billy Epler. Buck Showalter's got nothing else to do, right? But he's walking around the spring training complex, and an article by Joe, I think it was Joel Sherman of the Post, fascinating. Buck Showalter's attention to detail is
amazing.
What the Mets want. That's what I want. I mean, I wish Buck Showalter was going on his 25th year as a manager of the New York Yankees, but the Mets are in such good hands with this guy.
You bet.
Running that dugout, and I just want to acknowledge that. Fascinating.
As a Yankee fan, I'm actually jealous that he's.
That's exactly right. Right. I was like,
come back, Buck. Yeah. Good point. And listen, the Olympics started, the Winter Olympics, which doesn't seem to have the allure for me that it once did when we were younger, obviously. But it just seems kind of weird that from a random point that the Winter Olympics in Beijing and they get 2 inches of snow. So all of the events on the ski slopes are fake snow. It seems funny.
I have to be honest, folks. I don't have the same fervor and enthusiasm for this Olympiad. I'm just being honest.
And I wanted to, say that we were going to cover curling in depth and stuff, but we're not really experts on that,
No.
Anyway, so Steve, let's move on to our notable passings, and I think the first one that we would have to say is Bill Fitch, who was 89 years old, passed away, and just a great 25-year career, head coaching 4 different teams, right? The Nets, Cavaliers. Won a championship with Larry Bird.
Head coach of the Celtics and Larry Bird's first, NBA championship, 1981. Yep. Remember it like yesterday, man. Bill Fitch was, well respected and a great NBA coach.
You bet. I mean, he had a great career. I think his last stop was the Nets, right? I mean,
it could have been. Yeah, everybody's last stop is the Nets.
But he was a basketball guy, and I saw that. I said 89, and he did win it with Larry Bird, and R.I.P. to him.
Yep.
And one from the world of entertainment, Dr. Johnny Fever.
Howard Hesseman. You're right. 81. Howard Hesseman, yeah. I mean, Dr. Johnny Fever, and he was in Johnny. He had some movie roles. He also had another sitcom, Head of the Class, and to this day, folks, I've still never seen one episode.
I could say I've actually seen a few episodes of that. Not as many as Happy Days season 1 or 2 or something, but that role he played on WKRP was pretty good.
Yeah, there's no question. He had a long, good acting career and well liked in the industry. I think he was 82 maybe or something like that.
Yep.
And I mean, WKRP has taken a hit over the last year, right?
What
notable passings. Herb.
Oh yeah, Herb Tarlick. Yeah,
right.
You're right. Howard Hesseman was 81.
81. Okay.
81.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, thanks for joining us. And again, there's so much to talk about, so many topics. We'd love to hear you. Send us an email, sports with mono and mono at gmail.com. And, shout out to our producer behind the curtain, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. I just want to say one thing. My daughter flew out to the University of Indiana. She's auditioning for performing arts. So I told her she has to go to the bookstore because I want a white long sleeve Indiana with red Indiana across it. And
tell her I want a red Indiana V-neck Bobby Knight sweater.
Totally. But anyway, Emily, good luck. Dad loves you, and I'm rooting for you. So.
All right, guys. But listen, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, and we'll be live next week. And I think we're going to touch on the Super Bowl next week.
Super Sunday.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. See you guys next week.
Right.